So this week we are going to talk about scheduling. And it's interesting because as I was preparing this, I thought, oh, scheduling, this should be easy peasy. I should breeze right through it. But actually, there are some things that I thought were kind of interesting that I hadn't thought of before. Um, and then other pieces that kind of reinforced what I already knew. So hopefully you'll feel the same way. But let me know again. I can see all of you, and I'm not going to be jumping back and forth on the screen. So just raise your hand or yell at me if you have something to say, because it always makes it go better for me if I feel a little more engagement. So scheduling. Um, Scheduling a new habit makes us more likely to convert any activity that we have into a habit. Okay, so if you really have an activity you want to convert into a habit, by scheduling it, you're more apt to convert it. Habits grow stronger and faster when they're repeated in a predictable way. The one thing that scheduling does is it forces us to confront the natural limits of the day. If we don't schedule, we don't think about. We just think we can put everything in a day, and we can't. You really have to think about how your day looks so that you can place things where they need to be. With the four tendencies, upholders like the predictability of schedules and the satisfaction of crossing things off of a to-do list. Okay. Questioners, they see the sound, like the sound reasoning behind scheduling. They get it. It makes total sense. You schedule and it's going to become a habit. For obligers, it's more apt to be helpful if there is some kind of accountability that they can feel from the scheduling. So if there's a sense of accountability, then they understand the scheduling. And rebels, they do what they want whenever they want anyway. So kind of rebels do. Rebels are all over the place most of the time. We take serious account of what works for others because it helps us predict if it will help us. And when she talked about this, the author talked about this, she said, when you think about it, if you're about to make a change in your life, what do? You do your research. What is the most impactful research? Well, according to her, the most impactful is when you talk to other people about what they're doing and what habits are they have they tried this, have they tried that. When people talk about, well, I'm trying this new diet, what do you want to do? You want to talk to them about it, see if it works. A new exercise plan, okay, how does that work for you? And we're more apt to take it more seriously when we hear personal accounts. We know people who have been through this. Have you ever noticed, like, you see an ad and you go, you kind of can take it or leave it. But if a friend of yours says, no, I've tried this and this is how it worked, do you notice the difference in your response when somebody does that? My response is, oh, this is actually somebody I know who actually tried this, and I'm going to get an honest answer. They're not trying to just sell me something. So we take it more seriously and we get more from it when we can talk to each other about it. So like this group, we get more from each other when we talk about it, like trying to change habits and make good decisions. We're learning more and getting more from it when we're, exchanging ideas than we would if we just saw an ad on TV. Okay. And what we learned before and this is something we learned before, that when you're scheduling a new habit, you need to tie it to an existing habit. Remember how we did habit stacking from Atomic Habits, or some external cue. Um, because without some kind of trigger, it's easy to forget about that new habit. So if you don't have something that you tie it to, it's easy to put it aside and forget about it. But always, no matter what time it is, the best time to start is now. The worst thing you can do if you want to make changes in your life or in your habits is to put it off and say, I'll do it next week, or I'll start that on Monday. You should start it immediately. And even if it's starting by doing your monitoring or seeing where, doing your research, you're at least doing something. So with scheduling, you have to decide when and how often a habit should occur. It should be as fixed as possible and consistent so it can become an automatic thing. Bad habits are easily created, but they make life harder. Good habits can be harder to create, but they can actually make your life easier if you think about it. So that's kind of contradicts what you really want in your life. It's easy to get into a bad habit, but it's harder to break those. Do you ever notice that? It's harder to break a bad habit. And it's hard. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it because, I mean, that's definitely a fact, but is it because we were born in sin?
I don't know. I think
born sinful creature,
I don't know.
We had to be taught, I don't know. Why is that?
Well, I think the things that just it just we get into a laziness or whatever's easy, and sometimes that's where bad habits come from, whatever's easy. Um, and that's why they're easy to create, the bad habits, because it's whatever's easy. And it's harder to get into the. I really admire people who can really create a like I have this friend. I watch her on Facebook and I'm fascinated because she's really gotten into this lifestyle of exercise and healthy eating, and she puts it all on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. I mean, her whole life has changed, but she also talks about the challenges that she has in trying to make that healthier lifestyle. So it's not easy. And I'm like, wow, you amaze me. Because even the little changes are difficult for me, but she's made a complete change in her life. And I just think it's because it's just easier not to do things that are good for us, I think. So so what you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. So if you're going to get into a good habit and really get things rolling in your life, whatever that is, and we'll talk a little bit more about some different things, you really need to make time for it every day, or very consistent time every week, or however often you're going to do it. So the first thing is time of day. Does it really matter? And we kind of talked about this before, because Pastor is an owl, and he was talked about. He's the first person I thought of, because he talked about how he would try to pop out of bed and exercise, and it just wasn't working for him, because his time frame and his lifestyle was later in the day than for like me, a lark. So he actually would do better exercising later in the day after he'd been up for a while and doing some things. So it does make a difference. Time of day does make a difference based on some of your tendencies and your distinctions. One of the things we have is that our self-control is actually stronger in the morning. And when you think about this, it makes sense. Because the author, when she started talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, it does make sense. Um, and this is for everybody. Your self-control is best when you first get up at whatever time it is. And as the day wears on, you have less self control. And she said, do you ever notice that the things that happen in society are have a tendency to happen later in the day and at night? And people go out and do things at night that they would never dream of doing in the morning. And she talked about that, and I was like, yes. Go ahead.
As soon as you said that, it just so happened that just today I was thinking on those lines. I I am really trying to eat better, to do better. And today I said, okay, so yesterday I messed up, the day before I messed up, I just messed up. So today I said, okay, this is a new day. And today I was doing fine. But as it got on into the evening, I had two cookies. And I don't have any, like I had only one serving of dinner though, and I really had to fight to keep from going
Right.
to get another one. But it is in the evening. It's definitely true.
You
I've thought
get
about that it
you
is
you get
hard.
tired. You get tired, and your
Yeah.
self-control and the command over what you're doing, it takes more effort, and you're tired. And so you're more likely to do things like you said, eat things you shouldn't eat. I do it. You know, when do you snack? Most people will tell you, well, when I'm watching TV at night, right? When I'm watching, we have popcorn or whatever, right? That's what happens. Um, so our self control is better earlier in the day. Now, the issue with this is we're talking in general terms, and it isn't that way for everyone because, like I said before, using Pastor as an example, because he's an owl, he's going to do better later in the day, where some of the rest of us wouldn't, because he's an owl and we're larks. So the one thing we can rely upon is a simple equation: consistency plus repetition equals no decision. So if we can keep something consistent and repetitious, we don't have to make a decision about it. There's no decision. So consistency plus repetition, you don't have to think about it. So therefore, even if you're tired, you're not thinking about it. You're not putting forth the effort to try and exert that self-control. So it's something to keep in mind. Okay, I'm going to say something now. This sentence is hard. I'm going to say it, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. The habit of the habit is more important than the habit itself. Okay, I'm going to say it again, and then we'll talk about it. The habit of the habit is more important than the habit itself. What that means is getting into the habit of doing something, whether it's differently, exercise, or whatever, maybe meditate, getting into the habit of doing it, even though sometimes we don't do it very well, is better than it can be better than the habit itself sometimes. There are times that you almost talk yourself out of it. You're like, I'm just too tired to exercise. You know what? If you would just don't push yourself, give yourself, instead of a 20-minute workout, give yourself 5 minutes, something, anything. You've done the habit. You've kept the habit, the repetition going. So just getting into the habit of knowing at this time, every day I do something. And some days I can do 30 minutes, and some days I can do 5. But I know every day at that time I do that. So even like with meditation, and that was the author's example. She was trying to get herself into meditating, and the problem was initially her mind would be everywhere. And she almost quit because she was like, I'm not good at it. And then she realized it doesn't matter how good you are. The fact that you're doing it and you keep doing it, you'll get better. But it was more about establishing that time to meditate, even if you don't do it very well. So even on those days where I get over to my little bike here and I can only go for 20 minutes, and other days I can go for an hour. But at least if I'm consistent, I'm doing it and I'm establishing that habit. Okay. So the habit of the habit is more important than being successful in the habit every single time. So the habit of, let's say, meal prep so that you're eating properly. Okay. So if you prep your meals in the morning, let's say, so you prep for your whole day, first thing in the morning, and you say to yourself, I'm not going to eat but what I just prepped. And you get into the habit of prepping good meal, and there are some days you may not prep it very well because you'll stick some Oreos in there or something. Okay. You may have messed up the good eating, but you're getting into the habit of establishing how you want to eat, the calories you want to eat, and you're at least thinking about it and establishing that time of day to do that thing. Does that make sense? Any thoughts on that? No?
No, I get that. Because today is not a good example, but I had been exercising at least half an hour, and then like a couple of days ago, I was like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this. And then I thought, well, shoot, I got some apps on an app on my phone that has like little videos. They're like, you can do any range from 5 to half minutes to half an hour. So I just found the 10-minute video and just did it and just said, well, it's done. It wasn't much, but it was something. So yeah, and yeah, I can see how.
Yeah. So
Just
if I, yeah, it's
repeating it. Yeah.
repeating it, establishing, like if I don't ride my bike, but if I say to myself, I don't feel like riding the bike, but I might go for a walk today. Well, I'm not getting the exercise I was getting on the bike, but I did go for a walk. Okay. I did something. So it's really just getting into the habit and having that time scheduled for whatever it is you want to do. That's more important than being totally great at whatever it is and totally committed every single time, because we're human beings and we may not feel well. So we might not want to do something. Now, it is harder to take the time to schedule something that we enjoy, and it actually takes more discipline to make sure that you have joy and pleasure and things you enjoy in your life scheduled, and making sure that you do something good for yourself that you enjoy every day. Okay. And some of the things, like here's the thing. She said this woman looked at her daughter's little, like she has I'm going to hold this up because this is my little, this is what I do every day. And I know it seems weird, a lot of people I work with, they have everything electronic, but when our electronics went down, they didn't know what their schedule is. They have no idea. But I have my little book and I have notes to myself, like up here, who do I want to put on the prayer call this week, and I color code, like I highlight different things and color code them. Okay. Well, she looked at her daughters, and her daughter had some things listed, and she talked to her about it. And one was deer, DEAR. She had time blocked out for deer. And she said to her daughter, "What is this?" It's drop everything and read. Because she wasn't taking time to just read something that was just enjoyable. And when I was in graduate school, and I was so stressed out when I was in graduate school, and my one supervisor said was talking to me about it one night, and he said, "Hey, I got something for you." And he walked over and he picked up this book and he said, "Here, read this." And I went, "What is this?" And he goes, "It means absolutely nothing." I said, "What? Well, I don't understand." He goes, "You need to get your brain away from studying and spend time just reading something for enjoyment. Just enjoy yourself." And he said, I want you to read a chapter a night, just to wind down. So if you want to get into the habit of just spending time enjoying something like reading, block an hour every day for reading, block an hour every day for meditation, block an hour. One of the other things on her daughter's schedule was choice time. And she said to her daughter, "What's choice time?" And she said, that's I get to choose whatever I want to do. Whatever that day brings me joy, I have an hour to do it. Whatever it is. It could be I want to paint. Um, I wanna I wanna read. I want to, listen to music. Whatever it is. And like Marsha, I was saying to Marsha earlier, sometimes the hardest thing is to have those times. I want to have a glass of wine and just sit. Just sit. And just sit and do nothing. Maybe just sit and talk to somebody. But you have that scheduled time that between 5 and 6, I'm going to sit. Okay? Yep. Go ahead.
So, so my niece, yesterday was one of my niece's birthday, and she was asking me like, like what would I want to do on mine? So I said, I don't really, like birthday parties and things like that don't really, I don't really look for all of that stuff. Well, yeah, that's Cassandra's birthday. Megan's birthday was yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry, I saw that there. But
Yep, that's fine.
so um, I said, all I want is to just sit down. If somebody wants to do something for me, I just want to sit down and just kick my feet up and just sit there.
Mhm.
I don't want to cook. Don't let me cook. Just bring me my plate
Mhm.
and take it away and clean the kitchen. But I can't go in the kitchen for that whole time because
Mhm.
I know that I'm going to be frustrated because it's not going to be cleaned.
Yep.
So I can't go in the kitchen.
Mhm.
But that's all I want to do. To have me a glass of wine, sit there and just nod off. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm
Well, and what she's saying is that's the hardest thing for us to schedule in our lives. And sometimes that's what we need more than we need exercise is time to say, I have an hour to read anything I want. And if I want to read something educational, I can, or if it's just a novel, I can read that. You know, just read, just read, or something that gives you great pleasure, a walk, or, you know, listening to music. To me, music is I love listening to music. And I love when I'm working to have music on. I don't like it to be too quiet when I'm working. But it's all of to schedule it into your day as as leisure time that's meaningful, you know, but also schedule in your meditation. And and for some people they'll say, well, that's too much scheduling, but you're assured to get something in, even if you don't get a full hour in. you're assured to say, okay, maybe I read one page today, but at least I read a page. And I feel like I cleared my mind a little bit. Okay. The next thing she talked about is quitting time. To establish a quitting time. Now, she said you don't have to establish a quitting time the same time every day, but know that when it's quitting time, you quit and you don't go back. I'm done. I will say to my daughter periodically on a weekend, we'll be busy with something, and suddenly I'll just say, I'm done. I'm done with whatever project I'm doing. I'm done. I established I will not do anymore. And that's important because you need to know when you're done. You need to say, I'm done. Here's my quitting time every day. I know that after this point, I'm not going to answer any emails. I'm not going to answer any phone calls that have to do with work. I'm not going to do any additional work. And it may, what she talked about is it may be at a different time every day, but at least at that point where you say it's quitting time, you're done. Because some days you might have to work late. We understand that. But when you say you're done, don't go back to it. Don't take a break and go back. Establish when you're going to, walk away from your work, especially from working at home and not feeling like you're walking away and shutting down and shutting the computer and not going back to it. Now, this suggestion I liked. She said, schedule yourself a power hour. And for this, she said, the habit is the power hour. What you do during that power hour is everything that you're not making time to get done. And it's anything that's not repetitive, but you've been putting off. So you say, every day from 6 to 7 is my power hour, and I'm going to get everything done that I put off. It's something that you just have to take 10, 15 minutes and just do it. And it could be, I've been meaning to change that light bulb and I keep forgetting. I write it down on my schedule. I'm going to change that at 5 o'clock today. That's what I'm going to get done today. Now, that's not an everyday thing, but she said, having a power hour about once a week can clear things away off your desk or away from your life, and then you're not worried about them. There are things like, she says, it's not anything that's repetitive. It's just little projects that you just can't seem to get done, but seem to kind of linger. I need to really I'm trying to think of a good example.
Like cleaning out your closet.
Yeah, there you go. I really need to clean out my closet. Yeah, I need to get rid of some of those clothes. And you put it off and you put it off and you put it off. And it's 3 months later and you still haven't done it. Well, she says if you take and you have a power hour once a week, that's something that could be your power hour. I got it done. It's usually, she said, something you really don't like doing, but you can just knock it off. So scheduling also can help you restrict the time that you spend on an activity. That if we allow ourselves too much time for an activity, we draw it out when we don't need to. I could spend all day cleaning out a closet because I get distracted and whatever. But if I know I've said to myself, I have an hour to clean out the closet, I know I can get it done in an hour too. But do you ever realize, like on a Saturday, you say, I'm going to clean out my closet. It could take you all day. It shouldn't take you all day, but it does because
you're finding stuff. You're like, oh, look at this. This is something. I have to, and then you start thinking back now. when did I buy this and start going through, and it takes you
Yeah.
20 hours to do one simple thing.
Yes, because you're
Just
thinking
rake it
too
off
hard.
into a trash bag.
You're thinking too hard, or you walk out of the room with something and you don't make it back in because you got sidetracked.
Yep.
And you don't pull yourself back. So, anyways, scheduling can restrict the time spent on an activity, and that means you can just really knock things down. Okay, so we all know who Johnny Cash is, right? You know Johnny Cash? Okay. Well, he has a famous to-do list. I got a kick out of it because she said sometimes your to-do list should be as simple as certain things to do in a day can be very simple, but at least you have these things to do and you just mark them off. Well, here's a things to do list that he wrote for himself to do every day. He should do these things every day. Not smoke. Kiss June. June's his wife. Not kiss anyone else. Cough. Pee. Eat. Not eat too much. Worry. Go see mama. Practice the piano. And that was it. He scheduled those were his things he would want to accomplish every day. And by saying, like, oh, I want to worry, he can limit his worry to this amount of time. Because I have to move on to, oh, now I got to go see my mama. So I can stop worrying because it's time to go see mama. So it can your schedule, when you're scheduling something, it can be as simple as, what are those little things you just want to get done? Things that are important to you. For Mother Trout, it might be spending time sitting watching TV with grandmother. You know, but you know that time is going to be from 7 to 8. And just say, this is how I'm going to do this from now on, instead of all night long where you get too tired. So scheduling is a very powerful tool against procrastination, which obviously, if you have it scheduled and you have it scheduled for a period of time, that procrastination is like, you need to get it done. That's where the power hour comes in. Those things that you procrastinate on, the power hour can help you just, knock them out. Okay? Or the tomorrow logic. I'll do that tomorrow, or tomorrow, or tomorrow, and it never gets done. So a schedule will help procrastinators, especially because there's progress. And what we don't always realize is, if you're procrastinating, you're actually causing anxiety and pressure in your life and worry. And by scheduling things and really holding yourself to the schedule, you're going to relieve that anxiety and pressure. Okay? So, to recap, scheduling eliminates decision making. So, what we want to do is eliminate the thought process when it comes to establishing a habit. So, we want to put something in our schedule, and we don't have to think about whether we're going to do it or not, because it's on our schedule, we do it. It helps you take advantage of making the most of your self-control and your self-command. It's on my schedule, I have to do it. Boom. It helps you fight procrastination, and it helps you make, and I think this is the most important thing, and probably the thing that really meant the most to me, and that was, it helped me make time for things that are important to us. And we always talk about, scheduling new habits like exercise and that kind of thing, but I really like the idea of scheduling the leisure things that we really like to do, like reading or meditating, or a meal prep, so that I might enjoy meal prep in the morning and have more self-control and eat better for the rest of the day. But ultimately, the idea is you just want that consistency in the repetition so you can stop working so hard on making decisions on whether you should do something or not. Just build it in. And like Marcia said, so I did 5 minutes of exercise as opposed to 30 minutes. I did it. And I think if we don't beat ourselves up because we didn't, you know, super extend ourselves every single time, I think we're going to do better establishing the habits. So we're working on establishing the habit more than we are being successful and always hitting a certain mark with the habit, if that makes sense. Okay? Questions, comments. I'm short this week. Let's talk about this a little bit.
With the I'll really live by the scheduling part or the list or whatever, because in health and wellness, First G was talking about doing the journaling, and it's in my phone. I have it like 2 times a week or something like that. But if it wasn't in my, I would just go. I wouldn't even think about it. So when it pops up there, I take 5-10 minutes, just write down something. It's done. So.
And that's the thing, you can schedule things on your phone, and the only decision that really comes into play is, you know, how much you want to establish that habit. So let's say your alarm goes off and you say, I don't really want to write today. Well, the decision is you shouldn't decide that. You should say, I really don't feel like it today, but I'm going to do something, and it might be 2 sentences, and tomorrow it might be 2 paragraphs. And there's the difference. It's not whether or not you're going to do it when that alarm goes off. It's I'm going to do it because I'm establishing it as a habit. You know, I'm going to take time to read every day. I'm going to read at noon with my lunch. And I'm going to pick a fun book to read, or a self-help book, or whatever. And I think that because for me, it was always about, well, if it goes off and I don't feel like doing it, I just don't do it. Well, that's not a choice. It should not, that should never be the choice. The choice would be, how much am I into it today, not whether or not to do it. So there's no decision as to whether or not. It's how much how much effort I can put forth today. And not every habit is an everyday thing. So if you say Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to do this. Okay. But when that alarm goes off, you better do it. So it establishes that that's what you're doing. Any thoughts about that? One of the things is sometimes we don't realize how much time we actually have until we start scheduling it and looking at really how long does it take me to do that. So that's where the monitoring kind of comes in a little bit. Like, does it take me a day to clean out my closet or an hour? You know? And then also scheduling things when you have the ability, the self-control, the self-command to be able to accomplish them. Now, I always find it hard with, yes, Yes, it's the same principle as budgeting. You don't realize you're actually budgeting your time. And you say, I really wish I could find the time to meditate more. Well, you have the time if you'll take it. I wish I could read more. I just can't seem to get any reading done. And see, I think if we focus on things we really enjoy doing, we in establishing some new habits, it's instead of always looking at things that we're not so thrilled about, let's start looking at, well, what are some things that I really would like to do for myself? Whatever that is, reading, let's say, or meditation. Start working on that. Well, when you see your success with that, maybe something that's a little more challenging you'll find it a little easier to do because you feel that success. I can't help you with eating too many cookies, though, Mother Trout, because I do that sometimes too. Anybody have any other insights about? I like the idea of setting an alarm on your phone to remind you. And like I said, I have a paper thing, I have my nice little thing and I can make notes. And it's actually got enough space that if I wanted to, I could journal in there as well. So if that's something you want to do where you say, okay, I've established times and I can see what my day looks like, and I see, I'm trying to establish a real structure in these things that I want to change in my life. So if I can see it, for me, if I can see it, I'm more likely to say, okay, I'll do that because I see it written right on here. And I've taken the time to write it down so I can establish it. Any other insights? Thoughts? What's going to be most challenging, do you think?
I think for me, Elder Cindy, the challenge is having to do so many things, during my daily schedule, during my daily activities, because I have, work. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I got to bring work home. I got to do some things to prepare for the next day. For example, I emailed myself some reports home that I need to work on because they have to go out like between tomorrow and Friday, I guess the early part of Friday, I suppose. So, and so it's kind of hard to I guess read or to find extra time to do some other things when you really want to make sure you're doing these types of things, exercising and then cooking. I bought a pizza from Pizza Hut, and that'll last me like 3 days or whatever. I don't have to cook. So I think about those kinds of things because I just don't have the time sometimes. So that's one of the biggest things for me is just, I wish I had more time in the day to actually to do more things, but it seems like the days just run out so quick when you got so much to do. But
well, and some of that too, like I know people who do a meal prep kind of like on Sunday afternoon. They prep their meals for the entire week. So all that they would have to do is microwave. That changes how they approach eating. But that's something you have to be committed to doing because it takes time, and you have to block out that time and you say, I'm going to do this meal prep. And that's a habit. I have a habit. Every Sunday I meal prep. This is what I do because they just don't want to do takeout. Now, do they never do takeout? No, I will tell you they will do takeout. But they actually eat differently than they used to because they are willing to do that meal prep. For you, the idea of quitting time and knowing when it's time to stop, and make sure that you have leisure time built into your schedule would be the thing that that you'd have to see about how you would fit that in. You know, when it's quitting time, I'm not going to go back to the task. It's time to quit. It's time for me to relax for a period of time and then go to bed or whatever. And then if you get up earlier in the morning, then you do that. But that you establish that there's a quitting time, whatever that is. It doesn't mean you don't take work home. Sometimes you do. Especially when you're working from home, I think that's the hardest thing sometimes, is really establishing that here's the end point. When I was younger, I actually lived where I worked, so there was no quitting time. I was a live-in staff member, so there is no quitting time because you're basically on 24/7. So I had to learn how to establish the cutoff points in my life, and to establish, if I walk out of my office at dinner time, I don't go back unless it's something I know I have to go back, like a scheduled thing or an emergency. I don't just do it because I got nothing better to do. I really had to focus on that self-care. And so sometimes self-care is the habit you have to get into for your mental health. For, like, even if it's something you schedule in the middle of your workday, to stop and journal, or stop and take 10 minutes, go somewhere, sit quietly and meditate. You've built that in for your own well-being. So sometimes, even if you look at your whole day, as opposed to, here's my work day, here's my home day, and they bleed over. Well, if they're going to bleed over, then take a little bit of your work day where you have a break and use that break time to your advantage. Like when I'm not working from home, it is easier for me to take my lunchtime and read. And I thoroughly enjoy it because I can just sit and read.
I've had to, since working from home, it's hard because you're already at home and your lunch break comes, where you are at the computer. So I have had to make a mental, decision to, like, just take that hour and get away. No matter, because it's going to be there when you get back to your desk. It ain't like you can just work it and it'll get more work is going to be coming anyway. So yeah. And it's not every day. I can't do that, sometimes, but I at least make an effort to try to get up.
And
well, if you're at work, you would do that. But why do we do that to ourselves at home? Go ahead, Mother Trout.
And they say that you should get up, every so many times in an hour, every hour. Mm-hmm. And so I just started that. But it's like you almost have to be, because if you when you real focus, you don't remember to do it. So you have to really make a mental note, just like you do for the hour for lunch. I have to make it and make myself get up and walk away. And then, and walk away. I'll tell you who really helps me do that is Tucker, because he comes in here and it used to really bother me. I used to want to scream at him, but if you scream at him, he looks so sad and you feel bad. So I would get up, but I would be mad, but I would get up. So now I see him and I'm glad that he's bothering me. So it'll make me get out of my seat and go in there and play. And I'm playing with him. And that's a really good break, So I have to force myself to do that, though. I haven't gotten the lunch hour, though, yet. I haven't done that one yet.
Tucker's your external cue that says, I got to get out of here. And so use what's already happening around you to say, I got to get up and got to get out of here. I got to get up and move around. I've got to, and if you get up to get a drink or something like that, don't get a drink and run back to dawdle a little bit, because like, unfortunately, because we don't have to travel as far to get to work when we're working from home, we're not moving around as much, and it's not good for us. So even if you had to schedule in at 10 o'clock every day, I get up and I walk around and I don't sit back down at the computer for 10, 15 minutes. Legally, you have a right to a break. Unfortunately, just the way sometimes the way they keep track of your time or whatever, it's kind of built funny. But like, even when you're at work, you don't sit and stare at your computer all day every day. You talk to the people that you work with. You walk around a little bit. You spend some time, doing whatever. So you're not staring at the computer that whole time like you are when you're at home. So take that time to get up and move around a little bit. My thing is, I get up and I walk, and if it's nice out, I step out on the porch for some fresh air, just because it helps. I talk to the neighbor cat, I stand on the porch, come back in, but I forget that, like now today I was at work. Well, if I pay close attention, I'm talking to people at work. I get up, I walk down the hallway for something, I move back and forth. I had to go get water for the plants. I had to go water the plants. That's not considered not doing my job, but I was up moving around, which I wouldn't necessarily think about. Like, if I was sitting at home and I said, oh, I should go water my plants, I would start to feel guilty, and I shouldn't. I shouldn't feel guilty because I would water my plants at work. But why am I feeling guilty if I'm watering my plants at home? So we've got to start thinking about, what are those things that we naturally do during the day to get up and move, and do them. Nobody is expecting us to sit at the computer because we feel guilty. So I think sometimes we have to really look at seriously, what are we doing for our own self-care in our scheduling of working from home? And make sure we build in some of that self-care, even if it's the little things like go play with Tucker. Anything else? Well, so we have the foundations, of eating. How the foundations were, we had monitoring, and then our foundations, which were eating, drinking, moving, sleep. It's all the things we know we need to focus on, but there's other things like, how do we enjoy ourselves and make sure we have time for those good things in life?